The smell of motor oil and betrayal hung thick in my garage that Tuesday night. I'd been pretending to fix my Chevy's carburetor for 3 hours, but really, I was just avoiding the house where my wife Jill was probably texting her high school sweetheart again. 37 years old, and I'm hiding in my own damn garage like some teenager afraid of his parents. Cole Winsford, mechanical contractor, reduced to eavesdropping on his own marriage through thin walls and thinner lies. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The side door creaked open. Jill's silhouette appeared, backlit by the kitchen light, wearing that black dress she claimed was for work events. At 10:30 on a Tuesday. Right. "Cole, you coming in any time tonight?" Her voice had that fake sweetness she'd been using lately, like artificial vanilla, close to the real thing, but something was definitely off. Quote. I said, not looking up from the engine. Quote. 3. The pause lasted exactly 2 seconds too long. Quote. For 4. New techniques, that's what we were calling it now. She disappeared back inside, and I heard her heels clicking up the stairs. Expensive heels. When did Jill start buying expensive heels for dental hygienist meetings? I wiped my hands on an old rag and followed her in. The kitchen still smelled like her perfume. Not the one I bought her for Christmas, but something newer. Something that probably cost more than my monthly truck payment. Her purse sat on the counter, unzipped. I'm not proud of what I did next, but desperate times and all that. Hotel receipt. The Grandview Inn downtown. Yesterday's date. Room service for 2. My hands didn't shake. That surprised me. 20 years of marriage and finding proof your wife is cheating doesn't even make your hands shake. Maybe I'd known longer than I thought. Her phone buzzed on the counter. The screen lit up with a text from Quote 5. Quote 6. Brad Keaton. Jill's high school boyfriend, the one who got away to make millions in real estate development, the one who'd moved back to town 6 months ago, right around the time Jill started having all these evening meetings. I took a photo of the text with my phone, then another of the hotel receipt. Evidence. In construction, you always document everything before you start demolition. Upstairs, I could hear Jill in the shower, probably washing off her guilt along with Brad's cologne. I sat at the kitchen table and opened a beer, staring at the photos on my phone. 20 years, house payments, vacations, her dental hygienist degree, my business. All of it built on what I thought was solid ground. Turns out I'd been building on quicksand. My phone rang. Mike Torino, my foreman and best friend since high school. Quote. 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 10. Quote. 11. Mike was quiet for a moment. Quote. 12. Quote. 13. Quote. 14. Quote. 15. Quote. 16. The shower stopped running upstairs. Jill would be down soon, ready to lie to my face again with that sweet smile. Quote. 17. Quote. 18. Quote. 19. I hung up and finished my beer. Jill came downstairs in her robe, hair wrapped in a towel, looking like the woman I'd fallen in love with in college. Before Brad Keaton came back to town with his money and his promises of a better life. You look tired, she said, kissing my cheek. The same lips that had probably been on Brad's a few hours ago. Quote 21, I said. Quote 22. She smiled and headed to the living room to watch TV. I stayed in the kitchen, planning. In construction, there's a right way to tear something down. You don't just swing a sledgehammer and hope for the best. You study the structure, find the load-bearing walls, figure out which supports to remove so the whole thing comes down exactly where you want it. My marriage was about to become a demolition project, and I was very good at my job. The next morning, Jill left for work at 7:30, kissing me goodbye like nothing had changed. I watched her Honda disappear around the corner, then called my bank. Quote 23. The banker, Mrs. Peterson, had known us for 15 years. Quote 24. Quote 25. By 8:15, I'd changed the beneficiaries on my life insurance, transferred the truck and business accounts to my name only, and called my lawyer. By 9, Mike was at my door with his pickup and a thermos of coffee. "You look like hell," he said, handing me a cup. "Feel worse, but I'm thinking clearly for the first time in months." We loaded my tools, my grandfather's workbench, and the big screen TV into Mike's truck. Anything Jill might claim in a divorce, anything that mattered to me. I left her stuff untouched. I'm not a thief, just a man protecting what's his. "Where are we taking all this?" Mike asked. "Storage unit on 5th Street. I rented it this morning." "You're really doing this?" "Mike, she's been lying to my face for months, spending our money on hotel rooms with her high school boyfriend. What would you do?" Mike spat into the driveway. "Probably something that would get me arrested. This is smarter." By noon, we'd cleared out everything that mattered to me. I left a note on the kitchen table. Quote 33. Then I drove to Brad Keaton's building, the Pinnacle Towers. 30 stories of glass and steel, the kind of place that screams, "I have more money than sense." Brad's penthouse was on the top floor, of course. His red Porsche sat in the parking garage, taking up 2 spaces because apparently rich guys never learned to color inside the lines. I parked across the street and waited. At 1:15, Jill's Honda pulled into the garage. She took the elevator up. 20 minutes later, they both came down together, Brad's hand on her lower back like he owned her. They got into his Porsche and drove off, probably to some expensive lunch where they could laugh about what a sucker her husband was. I followed them to Romano's, the fancy Italian place downtown. Through the window, I watched them hold hands across the table, watched Jill throw her head back and laugh at something Brad said. She looked happier than she'd been with me in years. That hurt worse than the hotel receipt. I took photos, lots of photos. Then I drove to Jill's dental office. Donna Marsh, Jill's best friend and the office receptionist, looked surprised to see me. Quote 35. Quote 36. Donna's expression shifted. Guilty, she knew. "I'm worried about her," I continued. "She's been staying out late, going to all these meetings. I found a hotel receipt in her purse." Donna's face went white. Quote 39. Quote 40. The lie came easy. Let Donna think I was the concerned husband instead of the betrayed one. Let her think I didn't know about Brad. She's been confused lately," Donna said finally. "Talking about roads not taken, you know. Brad Keaton moving back to town stirred up a lot of old feelings." "Brad Keaton?" "Her old boyfriend from high school. He's been calling her, taking her to lunch. She says it's just friendship, but..." Donna trailed off. But she bought new lingerie last week, Cole. The expensive stuff from Victoria's Secret. Said it was for you, but she'd never worn it home." Quote 47. Donna nodded, looking miserable. Good. She should feel miserable for helping my wife cheat. I drove back to the Pinnacle Towers and waited. At 5:30, Jill's car appeared again. This time, she stayed for 3 hours. When she finally came home at 9, I was sitting in the living room, reading a magazine about construction equipment. "Hey, honey," she said, dropping her purse by the door. "Sorry I'm late. We had an emergency patient." "No problem. How was your day?" "Boring. You know how it is." She sat down next to me on the couch, curled up against my side like she used to when we were young. For a moment, I almost forgot about the photos on my phone, the hotel receipt, the 3 hours she'd just spent in Brad Keaton's penthouse. Almost. "Jill," I said carefully, "are you happy?" She stiffened. "What do you mean?" "With us, with our life. Are you happy?" She was quiet for a long time, then, "I don't know, Cole, are you?" It was the first honest thing she'd said to me in months. Quote 57. I said. Quote 58. She pulled away from me. Quote 59. Quote 60. I agreed. Quote 61. She went upstairs early, claiming a headache. I stayed on the couch, making plans. Tomorrow, I'd start the real demolition. Thursday morning, I called in sick to work and followed Jill to her office. Then I drove to the Rusty Wrench, the dive bar where Mike and I had been drinking since we were old enough to fool the bartender about our age. The lunch crowd was mostly construction guys and retirees. Perfect. I ordered a beer and waited. At 12:30, Mike showed up with Tommy Brennan and Steve Walsh, two guys from our crew who'd known Jill since high school. Quote, 62. Tommy asked, quote, 63. I pulled out my phone and laid it on the table. Quote, 64. The photos spoke for themselves. Jill and Brad holding hands at Romano's. Jill entering the Pinnacle Towers. The hotel receipt. Jesus, Cole, Steve said. With Brad Keaton? The same Brad Keaton who used to brag about screwing other guys' girlfriends in high school, Tommy added. Some things never change. Word travels fast in a small town, especially word about scandal. By 2 o'clock, half the bar knew about Jill and Brad. By 3, it was all over Facebook, thanks to Tommy's wife posting about some people who don't respect marriage vows. I didn't have to say Brad's name. I didn't have to post anything myself. I just had to plant the seed and let the gossip mill do the rest. At 4, I drove to the Pinnacle Towers again. Brad's Porsche was parked in its usual 2 spaces, gleaming red paint job catching the afternoon sun. I'd brought my toolbox. It took me 15 minutes to put his car up on cinder blocks and remove all 4 wheels. I left them stacked neatly beside the car with a sign. Quote 70. Then I called the building's towing company and reported an abandoned vehicle blocking traffic. By the time Brad came down from his penthouse, probably expecting to drive off to another romantic evening, he found his Porsche surrounded by a crowd of onlookers and a very confused tow truck driver. I watched from across the street as Brad screamed at the towing guy, his face red with rage and embarrassment. Someone was filming with their phone. By evening, it would be all over social media. My phone buzzed. Text from Jill. Emergency at work, won't be home until late. Emergency. Right. I drove to Romano's and waited in the parking lot. Sure enough, at 7:30, Jill showed up in a taxi. Brad arrived 10 minutes later in an Uber, still wearing his expensive suit but looking frazzled. Through the restaurant window, I watched them argue. Jill was crying. Brad kept looking around nervously, probably worried someone would recognize them. Small towns don't have many secrets, and by now, everyone knew about the cheating dental hygienist and the rich developer with the car on blocks. They left separately. Jill in another taxi, Brad in another Uber. The romance was losing its shine. I got home before Jill and was waiting in the kitchen when she walked in at 10:15. Her eyes were red from crying, her makeup smeared. Rough day? I asked. She looked at me like she was seeing a stranger. Cole, we need to talk. Do we? Someone's been spreading rumors about me, horrible rumors. Donna said people are calling the office asking if it's true that I'm having an affair. Are you? The question hung in the air between us like smoke from a house fire. How can you ask me that? She said finally. Pretty easily, actually. Are you having an affair with Brad Keaton? Her face crumpled, not with guilt, but with rage. You've been spying on me. I've been paying attention, there's a difference. You bastard! You've been following me, haven't you? Taking pictures? I've been watching my wife lie to my face for months. Yeah, I took pictures. Evidence. She slapped me. Hard. My cheek stung, but I didn't move. Quote 83. Quote 84. Quote 85. She was crying now, but I was done feeling sorry for her. Quote 86, she said. Quote 87. I laughed, actually laughed. Quote 88. Quote 89. Quote 90. I walked past her toward the stairs. Quote 91. The sound of her sobbing followed me up the stairs, but I didn't look back. In construction, once you start the demolition, you don't stop halfway. You finish the job. Friday morning, I woke up to find Jill already gone. Her suitcase was missing from the closet. She'd left a note on the kitchen table. Staying at Donna's until we figure this out. figure this out, like there was some magical solution that would put our marriage back together after she'd been cheating for months. I made coffee and checked my phone. 3 missed calls from my lawyer, 2 from Mike, and 1 from a number I didn't recognize. The unknown number had left a voicemail. I played it while I ate breakfast. Cole Winsford, this is Brad Keaton. We need to talk. Meet me at the construction site on Maple Street tonight at 8. Come alone. I saved the message and called Mike. You hear from Jill? He asked, without saying hello. She moved out, staying at Donna's place. Probably for the best. Word is, her boss at the dental office isn't happy about all the gossip. Bad for business when your hygienist is the talk of the town. What else are people saying? That Brad Keaton's been bragging about his conquest to his business buddies. Real classy guy. Also, someone posted video of him screaming at the tow truck driver yesterday. It's got about 2,000 views already. I smiled despite everything. Mike, Brad wants to meet me tonight at the Maple Street site. That's not a good idea, Cole. Probably not. You free around 7:30? I'll be there. I spent the day at work, trying to focus on normal things like electrical permits and supply orders. But my crew kept giving me sympathetic looks, and I overheard Tommy on the phone with his wife, getting updates on the town gossip. By 5 o'clock, I'd heard enough whispered conversations to know that Jill's affair was the biggest news to hit town since the mayor got caught embezzling from the library fund. Small towns love a scandal, especially when it involves connection and money. At 7:15, Mike and I drove to the Maple Street construction site. We were building a small office complex there, nothing fancy, but it was a good spot for a private conversation. Lots of heavy equipment to hide behind, no neighbors to overhear. Brad's Uber dropped him off at exactly 8 o'clock. He was wearing a different expensive suit, probably trying to look intimidating. It didn't work. He looked like a rich kid playing dress-up. Winsford, he said, walking toward me like he owned the place. We have a problem. Do we? You've been harassing me, vandalizing my property, spreading lies about me and Jill. I looked around the construction site at the concrete mixers and steel beams. Brad, you're standing on my work site, threatening me. That doesn't seem real smart. I'm not threatening you. I'm trying to resolve this like adults. Adults don't screw other men's wives. His face flushed red. Jill came to me, not the other way around. She was unhappy, Cole. She wanted more than what you could give her. What I couldn't give her? Like what? Security, a future, a man who could provide for her properly. I've been providing for her for 20 years. A garage mechanic's salary isn't exactly what I'd call providing. That's when I knew Brad Keaton had never done an honest day's work in his life. I'm not a garage mechanic, Brad. I'm a mechanical contractor. I employ 12 people. I've built half the commercial buildings in this town. Still not enough for Jill, apparently. He was trying to get me angry, trying to make me throw the first punch so he could claim self-defense later. But I'd been dealing with rich guys who thought they could push around blue-collar workers my whole career. Quote, 117. Brad continued. Quote, 118. Quote, 119. Quote, 120. I stepped closer to him, close enough to smell his expensive cologne, the same smell that had been on Jill's clothes for months. Brad, you ever work with your hands? Ever build anything? Ever fix anything that was broken? What's your point? My point is, you don't know what you're dealing with. You think money makes you tough. You think threats scare me. I've been working construction since I was 16. I've dealt with union bosses, city inspectors, and contractors who could buy and sell you 10 times over. You're just another rich kid who thinks his daddy's money makes him special. Brad's face was getting redder. Quote, 124. He swung at me, telegraphed it from a mile away, like someone who'd never been in a real fight. I stepped aside, and his momentum carried him straight into a pile of insulation materials. He went down hard, his expensive suit covered in pink fiberglass and construction dust. When he tried to get up, he slipped and fell again. "You attacked me!" he yelled, struggling to his feet. "I'm calling the police!" "Mike, did you see me attack anyone?" Mike, who'd been watching from behind a concrete mixer, shook his head. Quote 128. Brad brushed himself off, ruining his suit even more. Quote 129, quote 130, quote 131, quote 132. Brad called another Uber and left, limping slightly and covered in construction debris. Mike and I watched him go. Quote 133, Mike asked. Quote 134. My phone buzzed. Text from Jill. Quote 135. I didn't reply. I was done explaining myself to people who'd already made up their minds about me, but I had a feeling the real confrontation was still coming. Saturday morning brought Detective Kelly Stern to my door. I'd known Kelly since high school. She'd been 2 years behind me, captain of the girls' basketball team, tough as nails then, and tougher now. "Morning, Cole. Got a few minutes?" I poured her coffee, and we sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd found the hotel receipt a week ago. Felt like a lifetime. Quote 137. She said without preamble. Quote 38. Quote 39. Kelly smiled. Quote 140. Quote 141. Quote 142. After Kelly left, I drove to the Rusty Wrench. Saturday afternoon was always busy. Guys from the construction crews, factory workers, anyone who needed a beer and some honest conversation. Donna Marsh was there, sitting alone at the bar, looking miserable. I bought her a drink. Quote 43, I asked. Quote 44. Quote 45. Donna stared into her beer. Quote 146. Quote 147. Quote 448. I felt a stab of something. Not quite pity, but close. 20 years of marriage doesn't just disappear because your wife cheats on you. Part of me still cared about Jill, still wanted to protect her, but not enough to let her destroy me in the process. "Donna, can I ask you something? As someone who's known us both for years?" She nodded. "Did I deserve this? Was I such a bad husband that she had to go find someone else?" Donna was quiet for a long time. Then, "No, Cole. You weren't perfect, but you were good to her. You worked hard, you were faithful, you supported her dreams. She wanted something different, something more exciting." Brad Keaton's exciting? Rich is exciting when you've been married to a working man for 20 years. That stung, but it was honest. My phone rang. "Jill. Cole, we need to talk, really talk this time." "About what?" "About us. About fixing this." I looked around the bar, at all the people who knew our business now, who'd watched our marriage become public entertainment. Quote 157. Quote 158. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Quote 159. I got to Romano's early and took a table in the back, the same restaurant where I'd watched her hold hands with Brad a few days ago. The irony wasn't lost on me. Jill arrived exactly on time, looking nervous. She'd lost weight, and there were dark circles under her eyes. The affair wasn't agreeing with her. "Thank you for coming," she said, sitting across from me. "Talk." "I made a mistake, Cole. A huge mistake. I got caught up in the excitement of seeing Brad again, of feeling wanted and desired, but it was never about you not being enough. It was about me being selfish and stupid." "You're right. You were selfish and stupid." She flinched. "I want to come home. I want to try to fix our marriage." "What about Brad?" "It's over. After last night, after he told me about your fight, I realized he's not the man I thought he was. He's arrogant and cruel, and he doesn't really care about me. He just wanted to win, to take something away from you." "So now that your boyfriend turned out to be a disappointment, you want your husband back?" "It's not like that. It's exactly like that. You traded me in for what you thought was a better model, and when it didn't work out, you want to return the merchandise." Tears started rolling down her cheeks. "I love you, Cole. I never stopped loving you. You've got a funny way of showing it. I know I hurt you. I know I broke your trust. But we can rebuild. We can start over. I stared at her across the table, this woman I'd loved for more than half my adult life. Part of me wanted to say yes, wanted to forgive her and pretend none of this had happened. But I couldn't forget the hotel receipts, the lies, the months of deception. I couldn't forget watching her laugh with Brad while I sat alone in my garage, wondering what I'd done wrong. Jill, do you know what I do when a building's foundation is damaged beyond repair? She shook her head. I tear it down and start over, but I don't use the same foundation. I build a new one. What does that mean? It means we're done, not because I don't love you, but because I can't trust you. And without trust, we don't have a foundation to build on. I stood up to leave. She grabbed my arm. Cole, please, don't throw away 20 years. I'm not throwing it away, Jill. You already did that. I walked out of Romano's and didn't look back, but I could hear her crying, and it broke what was left of my heart. Outside, it was starting to rain. The storm hit Sunday night like the town's anger had been building all week and finally boiled over. I was in my garage, actually working on the Chevy this time, when my phone rang. Mike's voice was tight with worry. Cole, you need to get down to the construction site. Now. What's wrong? Brad's down here, drunk off his ass, screaming about how he's going to burn down everything you've built. He's got a crowbar, and he's already smashed the windows on the site trailer. I grabbed my keys and drove through the rain to Maple Street. Brad's latest rental car, a black BMW this time, was parked sideways across the entrance to the construction site. The headlights were still on, and I could see Brad stumbling around the equipment yard with something in his hand. Mike was waiting for me by the gate, rain streaming off his hard hat. Quote, 182. I asked. Quote, 183. I ruined his life. That was rich. Quote, 184. Quote, 185. I walked into the construction yard. Brad saw me coming and stumbled toward me, the crowbar raised like a weapon. His expensive suit was soaked through, his hair plastered to his head. He looked like a drowned rat in designer clothing. Quote, 186. He screamed over the thunder. Quote, 187. Quote, 188. Quote, 189. Quote, 190. He swung the crowbar at me. I stepped back, and he nearly fell over from his own momentum. He was drunk, angry, and dangerous. A bad combination. Quote, 1991, he yelled. Quote, 192. Quote, 1993. Quote, 194. He charged at me again. Crowbar raised. This time I didn't step aside. I grabbed his wrist, twisted, and the crowbar went flying into a pile of construction debris. Brad tried to punch me with his free hand, but he was too drunk and too angry to aim properly. I shoved him backward. He tripped over a stack of lumber and went down hard in the mud. That's when Jill's Honda pulled into the construction yard. She got out of her car, soaked within seconds by the driving rain, and ran toward us. "Stop it!" she screamed. "Both of you, just stop!" Brad struggled to his feet, mud and water streaming down his face. "Jill, tell him you choose me." Jill looked at Brad, really looked at him for the first time. Saw him drunk, covered in mud, holding a crowbar like some common thug. Saw what he really was underneath the money and the smooth talk. "Brad, go home," she said quietly. "What? Go home. This is over. You can't be serious. After everything we talked about? After all our plans?" "What plans?" I asked. Jill's face went white. Quote, 203. Quote, 204. Brad laughed, a bitter sound that mixed with the thunder. Quote, 205. The rain kept falling, but I felt like I was standing in perfect silence. Quote, 206. I asked Jill. She couldn't look at me. "It wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that," Brad yelled. "She came to me, Cole. She had it all planned out. How to hide assets, how to make you look like the bad guy, how to get the judge to give her everything. I was just supposed to provide the legal muscle." I stared at my wife, my soon-to-be ex-wife, standing in the rain, finally seeing her clearly for the first time in months. 20 years, I said, and you were planning to rob me blind. Cole, please, get out. What? Both of you, get out of my construction site, get out of my life, I'm done. Brad tried to say something else, but I cut him off. Brad, you want to know why you lost? It's not because I'm smarter than you or tougher than you. It's because you never understood what you were fighting for. You thought this was about money or winning or showing off for your rich friends. But for me, this was about 20 years of my life. 20 years of trust and love and building something real with someone I thought loved me back. I looked at Jill. And you? You threw away 20 years for what? Money? Excitement? A chance to hurt me as badly as possible? I never wanted to hurt you, she whispered. Then you should have thought of that before you started planning to destroy me. Police sirens were getting closer. Kelly would be here soon, and she'd sort out the mess with Brad and the crowbar. But my part in this was over. I walked toward my truck, leaving them both standing in the rain. Behind me, I could hear Jill crying and Brad cursing, but I didn't turn around. At my truck, I stopped and looked back one last time. They were both getting into their cars, defeated, soaked, and miserable. Two people who'd tried to destroy me and ended up destroying each other instead. My phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. Quote 220. I smiled and got in my truck. Sometimes the best revenge is just being the last man standing when the dust settles. Thunder crashed overhead as I drove home through the storm, windshield wipers fighting the rain. In my rearview mirror, I could see the red and blue lights of Kelly's police car arriving at the construction site. Let her sort out the mess. I had a business to run and a life to rebuild. And for the first time in months, I was looking forward to both.